knows far more about Kubernetes and stream sets and SQL than I do. And I have to teach him how to do this because he can't automate the deployments. Whereas I could have done this by hand in 20 minutes.
So do you feel the automation is something that's coming from the software engineering side? It's like we need to automate everything, because we had Phil Winder on here a few weeks back, and he was talking about how automation is the holy grail and we're always striving for automation.
Why?
And that was my
Why
next
are you striving
question.
for automation? Why? Why are you doing that? What is the goal of any project? To get paid. What do companies do? They bill their customers. That's what I do. So what is the goal of automation? Right? I worked at a company. I come in as a consultant. The CTO hired me. The head of search, who they brought in from Google, said to me, we want to know everything that you're doing so that we can fire you and still be able to run the product. And I'm like, I'm not an employee. You can sign a maintenance contract. I've been working with this company for 10 years. I mean, it's just the way we want you out. We don't want you here. We want to extract every piece of knowledge that you have and automate it. And then we want to kick you out. I'm like, how about if I tell you nothing and just bill you? Right? I mean, it's like you have this adversarial relationship with people who think like this. And it's like, that's crazy. Like, no, what you want to, why are you automating? Your goal as a machine learning scientist, as a data scientist, is to run experiments. You want to run experiments to figure out what's going to work because you don't know what's going to work. So you have, especially when you're dealing in live environments with people. Search engines are a great example. People are searching for things and you want to figure out how to give them relevant information. It's actually a really hard problem, and most people in the industry screw it up totally. Except Google, of course. This is what Google is based on. They figured out search, and that's why they run the world now. So you want to run experiments. So your goal, if you're trying to automate something, is to automate the experimental process. Now, once you get something that makes, and this is how you do it in trading environments. You work I worked at Blackrock, okay? Blackrock, I don't know if you guys know who Blackrock is. Blackrock is the 800-pound gorilla on Wall Street. They have trillions of dollars in asset management. And I worked in the SAE group, which was the group that invented the index fund. How did we do it? So I've worked in the largest financial institution in the world. It's not automated. That's not how they do it. They don't do it that way. What they do is they invent their algorithms, they put them into production quickly, they figure out what works, and then they automate it after it's going to make you money. And if it stops making you money, and in the trading world, if it stops, you don't want to maintain things that stop making you money because they make you lose money because now you're trading on the wrong thing. So you've got to be able to get things into production and out of production quickly. That's your goal. But software engineers, and you've got to think what part you need to automate and what part needs to be done by hand. And if your attitude is like, we want every engineer to be a commodity, that's not how, the group I worked in at Blackrock had 200 scientists on 200 PhDs. Every single guy in that group, Caltech, MIT, Stanford, Superdec, Moscow State, every single person there had a PhD from the top place in the world. And they were super smart. These are not people you want to leave and take the algorithm with them, because they will leave, they'll take the algorithm, go somewhere else and make the money themselves. That's what they're going to do. So it's a completely different mentality. Your goal is to keep them there. And at some point, people always, so is automation, why are you doing it? Are you trying to make your life easier? Are you trying to commoditize the engineers? You can just kick them out whenever you want. Is it just sort of this mindless thought process? Or are you really doing it to try to do quality control? Are you trying to make the system more stable? And I think people just don't ask those questions. They're just like, this is how we do it. And, you don't know what you're doing, so you don't do it that way. How do you automate green? The other thing about AI, and it was just so important, this is all greenfield, right? Things that we're doing now in natural language processing, for example, 2 years ago, didn't exist. Transformer models, for natural language programming, Bert, Elmo, this idea of being able to generate fake text, that was impossible 5 years ago. So you're working in environments where things are changing very rapidly. Look at Python. You're still working on, imagine all the companies that automated Python 2.7, right? Bank of America, I've heard horror stories about this. We automated now Python 2.7, it's gone. Now you have, when I was at BGI, prior to Blackrock's acquisition, they automated everything. They had 2 versions of Perl running. Remember Perl forked? You guys may be too young to remember that. You're all young guys. Perl used to be the thing to do, and Perl forked. And new Perl is completely incompatible with back Perl, old Perl. So but everything's automated and everything's locked in. So they had to redo so they had to then maintain 2 versions of Perl. So automation has problems or what about, automation is problematic if it locks you in and you're totally brittle. And in an environment where you're doing machine learning and AI, things are constantly being updated. Just recently, another example, Ubuntu. Okay, so what's the most common thing in the world in MOps? I've worked in environments. Well, we're doing dev in Ubuntu 16, but deployments are in Ubuntu 12 because it's automated. And if you want to change it, you can't change it because you got to redo everything. Ubuntu 12, okay, well, because they're not using Docker yet, right? Because they automated it, but they didn't have Docker, because Docker would kind of solve this problem, hopefully. So you want me to do a dev in Ubuntu 16 and deploy in Ubuntu 12, okay? And you want me to do that using, what am I going to use? Python 1.3? What do you want me to do here? It doesn't make any, so this automation obsession is really problematic if you don't, the point of automating is that you have a product and you want to scale the product. But if you're doing science, you don't have the product yet. You don't know what you're doing. So the last thing in the world you want to do is automate something before you know what it is.
That's a great point.
What if I have to move from TensorFlow to PyTorch? What if I have to go from, what if I have to change, this kind of stuff. It's the wrong mentality for trying to do innovation. What you need to do is create a carve-out. You create a carve-out from the organization with a weak coupling to the rest of the organization. And usually what happens is the automated systems are strongly coupled. And there are these dense dependencies that you can't unravel. So you automated things, but you did it in a way where everything is codependent. You forgot about the whole idea of you need to have weakly dependent distributed systems.